Got it.
We have updated news on the NCGA, our state's General Assembly, and the status of our state's budget. Yesterday, Wednesday, November 19, members of the NC Senate Democratic Caucus hosted a public hearing at the General Assembly, and the hearing titled The Real World Impact of Failing to Pass a State Budget. Jenny, our organization's chair and co-founder of Advocates for Medically Fragile Kids, made a live appearance at our state's General Assembly and testified at the hearing. Jenny, let's dive right in. Tell us exactly what this hearing was for and why this hearing was held. So, what was the objective and the goal for this hearing?
My understanding, their objective was to really get a sense from real life people in the state and how our lives are affected by this budget not being passed, whether it's fully funding Medicaid, but even just the whole state budget in general. There was a section on healthcare, but there were also sections on education and um, food insecurity and agriculture as well. So it was just sort of a broad range of topics so that they could really understand where the state is hurting.
They did a good job about covering quite a variety and a range of how it would affect. They even included our veterans, our military families
Mhm.
in the state. So they did a good job of that. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought so too. Um, and had some people that definitely had the real world experience. It was, I believe, the Person County Teacher of the Year was there. There was a farmer there. There was a physician for a free medical clinic. So they had people that were definitely down on the ground doing the work.
Okay. And how did you get to be a voice for our children and our families? What's the story behind you testifying at the hearing yesterday?
Well, I kind of found out after the fact, but on Saturday I got a phone call and it was a local number, a Greensboro number, it turns out. And I don't often answer numbers of somebody I don't know because I get so many telemarketers, but I answered it. And it was this gentleman, Tim Moreland, super nice guy. And he was telling me that he works for Senator Sidney Batch. And they were putting together this hearing, and um, that Senator Lisa Grafstein had specifically asked if I would attend. And I was like, well, you can't say no to that.
Exactly. A
So
senator called
I
and
looked at
asked.
my calendar and I was like, yeah, all of those things are movable. So cleared the day and we just kind of jumped right in. So I knew a little bit and then he emailed me more information. And then the young man that had like pulled it all together sent out like logistics that included potential questions and stuff. So that was helpful to be prepared.
Right. And what was the message you wanted our state's lawmakers to hear?
I think that, as is often the case when you're talking politics, that the person with the most money or um, the biggest organization behind them is who gets the ear of everybody instead of the families that are experiencing that, like the farmer, like the teacher, like us as parents of medically fragile kids. Um, that's a different perspective than even talking with the physicians that might be taking care of them. And both are important to hear the perspectives of, but far too often, either because they don't know how to find us or it's too difficult to bring to expect, well, and even to expect people to come in because, and thankfully, my husband was in town, so he took care of all of our daughter's after school stuff. And um, I've got the support at home to be able to come, but not everybody has that. And but there was actually another um there was what can't call him a young man because I don't remember how old he was, but who is receives I'm not sure if he was on the innovations waiver or not, but anyway, he was there and he had two of his support people with him, one of whom testified, and then he had programmed his computer to give a speech. So he used his talker to do all four components of his speech. And it's just incredible, when you ask. I think so many times maybe they think that they don't want to bother us if they know about us. Like obviously Senator Grafstein knows about us because she's an attorney for disability rights. But
Hmm.
so many times too, it can be like, well, we don't want to inconvenience you. But
Right.
her colleagues may not know what she knows. And so this is a chance
Right.
for her to bring in people that can help educate her colleagues about, what lives are like for families that deal with, medically complex kids and as they're adults. Um,
Right.
so.
Right. And
And I don't even know
who,
that I had met her in person, maybe one time quite a while ago. So
ah,
it was crazy to me to think that she asked for me. But we got to talk for a little bit yesterday, so that was really nice. And of course, our friend Corey was the one who passed along my name. So
right.
I,
Boy done.
mhm.
Right. And who all was present at the hearing? So whose ears heard your message?
So all 50 senators were invited, but I think there were 14 or 16 that were there. They were all Democrat senators, but they said they had invited all the Republicans as well.
Hmm.
And then some support staff, of course, for them. But, I don't have a lot of experience in speaking to these kinds of things. And I guess since it was an actual Senate hearing was why they showed up. But I know a lot of times for certain things, they might like send their legislative aide or something to go listen and take notes for them. But they were there and they were prepared. Like Senator Batch had prepared them with questions that they could ask us if they wanted to. And they all just were very deeply moved by the stories that they were hearing. Um, it was just really, at least it was a kind audience. And
Right.
yeah, I would definitely do it again.
And just a little bit about who did you actually get to meet and speak to at the NCGA while you were there?
hmm So my Senator Paulo was there, and I've met him several times. And it was funny because it's probably been since COVID that I've been to the General Assembly, and
Wow. Okay.
like since before, I mean. And so
Hmm.
yeah, it's been a little bit, but he kind of looked at me like, I think I know you. And I was like, yes, you do know me. You've met me several times. And Madison, who's in 11th grade, when her fourth grade class went to Raleigh for their field trip, um, I had planned it out ahead of time with him, but we met him at his office and he escorted the kids onto the floor of the General Assembly, which adults are not
Oh,
allowed generally, but they were actually out of session. So they let all of us go in and we got a picture like right in front of the speaker's desk and everything. It was really cool. And we've kind
what
of
a great experience for fourth graders.
I know, right? It was a lot of fun. So I was like, we've met before, and this is, some of the different circumstances, and so it was good to see him. And then, I mean, I have the list of everybody that was there, but I got to meet obviously Senator Grafstein,
Hmm.
Senator Batch, who was so kind and so warm. And she's the leader of um, the minority caucus right now. And she, from all appearances, like they look to her as their leader, and she's kind of young. I mean, I don't know how old she is, but I don't know that she's been there like a super really long time. She
Hmm.
just had lots of energy and warmth. And then when she like led the beginning part of it, she spoke with authority and people listened. So it was really neat to get to talk to her several different times. I have a picture we can put in the chat in the comments of
That would be
pictures of
great.
her, and then also with Senator Grafstein. I got a picture. We didn't take pictures till afterwards, and so Senator Lowe had already left, so I didn't get one with him. And then I also got to speak with Senator Michael Garrett from Greensboro. So
Well,
he
you
actually,
actually gave you
yeah,
his office
yeah, I was
because
going to
you
say,
were appearing as a panelist.
yeah. So that was the one thing that I could not easily move from my schedule. And so
Uh-huh.
I asked him, I was like, is there any way like I could take this, do this webinar on site so that I'm not having to do it in the car and then rush in or anything like that. And he was like, don't worry, I will find someplace. And that someplace ended up being Senator Garrett's personal office. So, which is like a tiny little closet, but very generous of him. And I thought, oh, maybe he's just not here. But then when I was done, he was standing in the in the lobby right outside, like waiting for me to finish so we could get back.
Really?
And yeah,
Well,
and standing there talking to
that's
Senator back.
impressive.
So that's when I met her the first time. So, but yes, that was really fun. And I was like, oh, well, Dania, one of our board members, knows your new Senator Garrett's mother from her t when she was on the school board and Dania was working on saving Gateway from getting shut down. So,
So there was a connection there. Well, that's
mhm,
really
mhm.
impressive that Senator Garrett said, please have my office so that you can be a panelist on a very
Yeah, very
important
kind. Yeah, he was
webinar.
very nice.
And he let you do the advocacy that you signed up to do. He didn't stand in your way, did he?
That's right.
Well, that's exciting. And what sort of feedback did you get after you testified, and what were you hearing on the ground? What's the temperature at the NCGA right now?
Mhm. I think there's a lot of frustration that people aren't showing up and willing to do the work, and that there just seems to be a lot of infighting even within the majority party and that's what slowed things down because I mean, when it comes to Medicaid funding, both the House and the Senate passed Medicaid funding um, that our secretary had said would be sufficient.
Hmm.
But one bill had money for a new children's hospital and the other one didn't. And that infighting over the children's hospital is why that amendment didn't get passed. So it's just really unfortunate that it's our kids and our families that, and like so many others, are missing out because of that.
Right. I see Mittens is coming to say hi.
Yes, I've been in and out today and not home at all yesterday. And so, yes, she can pull her chair up beside me.
Yeah,
Um,
she's like, it's my time.
yes. But otherwise, I would say the feedback to the testimony was really good. Like even before the whole thing was over, there were some women that were sitting behind me. And to be honest, I'm not sure what their role was.
Hmm.
If they worked for one of the senators or if they were there in some other capacity, but um, I think they were from Winston. I think that was what Senator Lowe was referencing when he was
Hmm.
talking with them and sort of, introduced me. Um, but at the end, when I was sitting down, one of them leaned forward really quietly and said, "Thank you so much." So, um, yeah. And all
Well,
the senators, when it was over, so many of them came up to me and just were so grateful, for coming all this way and, being willing
right,
to do this. So,
to speak up, right?
mhm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not very frequent, if at all, Jenny, that a voice at this level and this capacity at our NCGA has been a voice directly for our children. This
No, I
feels like
mean,
this is pretty historic.
yeah. Senator Batch said that they've never done anything like what they had put together. Um, and she was like, I feel like every time we're putting together a state budget, this is the exact kind of thing that we should do. Listen
Mm,
to the people on the ground instead of the lobbyists and, all the
right.
other people that are there, trying to get their piece of the pie. She's like, we need to be talking to the people. And she was like, at the end, she's like, I love that we did this, and I think we need to do more of this in the future. So we'll see. Maybe
Which
it'll
is
be a regular thing.
right. Which is which is in some way hopeful, refreshing, but also surprising, given that our lawmakers are putting together what governs our state and who makes up our state? The people, us. And the fact that she was saying we need to be doing this makes one wonder why it hasn't been done sooner.
Hmm.
Because we are the direct beneficiaries of policies and laws.
Hmm.
So, how it affects us, the only way they're going to know is by us telling them. You
Yeah.
need to hear from those it affects. So,
Yeah.
let's hope that more of this is done in the future.
Yeah. I mean, I think, the legislators are paid like nothing and expected to be experts in everything.
Hmm.
And that's just not feasible with the amount of time that they're given. And so I know that at least historically they've deferred to all of the different subcommittees, so there would be a subcommittee on education and one for one for agricultural and one for food support assistance and the rest of the members defer to that committee to be the experts. Um,
Right,
but I do think certainly there's value, and even if you're not going to become an expert, to at least hear from some people on all the subjects,
right,
to kind of get at least a baseline awareness of what's going on. So,
right. And
absolutely.
not to blow the lovely interview and moment that we had with Corey Dunn with DRNC, but we're going to be bringing out the interview we did with her very soon. And just to let everyone know, the listeners, pay attention because she's going to be talking about this. She's going to be addressing how storytelling
Hmm.
from the people is so powerful. She's actually going to be mentioning that. So,
Hmm.
right. And I'm curious. I don't know if you can even answer this question, but I'm just curious. How successful, based on your experience and what you heard and felt and saw yesterday at the hearing, how successful do you feel this hearing will be in resolving the situation our state's most vulnerable and fragile are being tragically forced to endure? How successful do you think it's going to be, Jenny?
Don't like being Debbie Downer. It's hard to say because I would say without knowing the minds of everybody that was there, but I don't think we were needing to change a lot of minds of the ones that were in the
With
room
there, right,
because I feel like they were already pretty much in agreement with what was going on. They appreciated hearing the stories for sure, but um, it didn't change the way they were already planning on voting in support of those things. So in terms of, how much that's going to do in making a difference to get all of the other, 34, however many were missing, senators to listen and change their minds. I mean, I don't know if they go back and watch or read the transcripts or I don't know. So I, I'm not going to sit here and say I think that my testimony at the Senate hearing is going to turn everything around and everything's going to be all better. And that would be
right,
amazing, but I don't think so.
right.
Just because
It's
of who showed up to listen
right.
and who didn't
It's
show up to listen.
right. And it's going to take a continued effort on all of our parts, a continued gentle persistence,
Yes.
and from all of us, on the part of all of us,
Hmm.
as a community of our state. And on just a little bit more of a lighter side, how did you feel? I mean, this was exciting. This has never been done before. This
Hmm.
is blazing a trail um, at our GA, and you being part of it. How did it feel being there, Jenny?
It was really cool and kind of surreal. Um, and I was nervous, and a lot of people already know that I have had voice issues for the last 4 or 5 years, something like that. I think my surgery was maybe in 2022, and it had been going on for at least a year before that. And I was like, okay, I really hope that I can physically get the words out in a way that they can hear. And of course, I had a microphone, but um, and oh, the secret I was going to tell you that I want to tell you ahead of time. So
I've
Tuesday
been waiting for this
night,
secret.
huh?
I've been waiting for this
Oh,
secret.
yes, 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 the secret. So Tuesday night, I'm sitting trying to write my speech, and I was like, the questions will probably just be a natural answer, but I wanted to have something prepared, and I'm glad I did because everyone else did too. And I was writing it, and I had written from a really personal standpoint, but I was having trouble making a gel in my mind. And I think my husband had said, like, well, put it in Chat GPT to clean it up. And this was like probably 11 o'clock at night. And so I did it. I read through it. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is good. We'll stick with this. And I printed it out and I went to bed. And I get in there and they're like, we'll start off by, even though they introduce you, they wanted us to start by telling our name and where we were from.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, I don't have that in my speech. So I was like, well, I'll get a pencil out and like write it at the front so I don't forget to say it. And I looked over it and I was like, I lost the whole personal aspect of it by having gone through ChatGPT. And I had read it, but I somehow did not make that connection. And so
Oh
I
no.
had written it in a Google Doc, and then I had just copied it and put that into ChatGPT and never changed anything with the document. So I was like, I pulled it back up, and as it's starting, see, originally I thought I was supposed to be first too. Thankfully, I was not. I was fourth, I think. I think that's right. Fourth out of five or fifth out of six or something like that. And so as it's going, I pull out my phone and I find it on Google. Thankfully, you can uh, work on one thing on your computer, but then pull it up on your phone. And I cleaned it up to where it was more cohesive again. Or it never really was, made it more cohesive, added the stuff at the beginning, and then I'm like, I have the like large iPhone, but it's still kind of small if you were going to set it out in front
Right.
of you. And so I like blew up the print and I'll see if I can pull it up for you. And I was like, here it was. I had done this whole paper, had it printed out. And then I was like, this is not going to work. So
So you were hacking
I
things
made
together
it
at the
that
last minute.
big so that I could read it far away from me. And it meant I had to scroll a lot. But yeah, so it's
Right.
rewriting my speech and then giving it without ever practicing it. So, yeah, that was
Well,
wild.
I heard you live, Jenny, and I would not have said you were reading it from a phone and that you had to deal with that at the last minute. So nobody would have guessed.
And the version I said was far better than ChatGPT. So I'm
There you go.
glad, I'm
There
glad,
you go.
glad I had it.
Exactly. Well, you did. I mean, you did great. I would never have suspected at all, but well done in holding your nerves together because That is, I mean,
I
it's
don't know if
daunting.
that like focused thing that I needed to get done is what kept me from getting nervous, or you would think that would make you more nervous to be like, oh no, what I have is not the right thing. So
Right. I mean, it's daunting at best of times to do something like that, let alone then be faced with, I don't have a piece of paper. I've got this tiny phone. I'm gonna have to scroll. So you did a great job. There you go,
thank
on the
you.
fly. Jenny's always so, well, on the surface, cool, calm, and collected.
I try to be. Can't say that I always am, but
And so right now, what message do you have for our families who are listening?
kind of going back to what we said Corey was going to talk about, and that's that stories are so important. And it's a lot easier to make cuts on a page when you're looking at numbers versus
Mm,
looking at the person, whether the person standing in front of you or the person that you met that is now connected to that thing, or if they receive a bunch of emails or phone calls about a particular issue. Um, yeah, those things are all important. And bottom line is a lot of them just do want to be reelected. So if you enough people are saying this is what we want, they'll listen to that too. So you can be persuaded by numbers, you can be persuaded by stories, you can be persuaded by lots of different things. So um, yeah, and it's funny because the webinar that I was part of right before was talking about this disability action network that I'm helping to kind of get started. And the whole point of that is for all these different groups to come together, uh,
mm,
and allowing the patient voice to be heard when possible, and actually having their voices being heard before our own, if possible. And then building systems or encourage the building of systems that support that. Um, but we're going to be better able to move the needle if we're all coming together and that we
hmm
all have a consistent message. Um, that's how you get people's attention. So,
Right, right. And the webinar, the panel that you were a part of just before you ended up testifying live at our General Assembly, that panel, Jenny, I wasn't, we weren't going to be talking about this, but why don't you just give us a little bit of insight into that? Because this is something that our listeners would want to be a part of. I know that they've got a newsletter that you can sign up for, and also a Facebook group that you can join as well to keep up with that. But tell us a little bit about it so that we can all join and be a part of this new movement that you've been asked to be part of.
mhm. Yeah. I'm not sure how I got connected exactly. They reached out to me because they had heard what we had done with our group. And they're like, that's what we want to do too. We want it to be from the ground up. So tell us what you did that was successful. Help sort of coach us. And then, of course, it's more geared towards people with a disability that are adults and not kids, but our kids become adults. So
Right,
like we need to be
exactly.
starting that younger. So that's why they were like, we like what they've done and how they've gone about doing it. And then also needing to tap into the pediatric population so that we're
Yep.
helping people transition well into the best thing for them. Um, so it's just been really neat. It's been some people that I've worked with before in the past. Um, and then some people that I haven't at all. We've been
Mhm.
meeting for, I want to say we started meeting in the spring. We
Mhm.
meet almost every week for an hour just to really
Wow.
talk about where we are and what we need to do. And yeah, so we're really finally now starting to launch it, hence the meeting yesterday. And yeah, and the
And
video
how can we,
put out, oh
and how
my
can
God.
everyone find
So.
How can everyone find the group, Jenny? It's Disability
Disability
Action
Action Network. Yeah.
Network, Disability Action Network. Okay.
Yes.
And what is the connection with LAND?
So the director of LAND is also the one that's leading this. And I think the grant funding for LAND ended, like the project ended, as
Mm,
did like Meet the Need. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not really sure. But somehow Beth Field, who was over land, um, and also worked with Meet the Need, like this is like what that is evolving into, is my
I
understanding.
see. That's where, right. So I'm trying to, great. That's helpful because I was trying to piece together how is this Disability Action Network, where's the link with LAND, and then Meet the Need. And I was trying to piece the puzzles together. So got it. Okay. So that's kind of
Yeah,
moving,
the webinar we
evolving
did
out of
last
that.
month, the webinar last month talked more about that. I think I wasn't
Yes.
on that one as a panelist, but I'm sure it's probably on their social media if you wanted to go look that up. But
Got it.
yeah.
Got it. But it was very, the panel yesterday was very informative, very dynamic,
Hmm.
and very encouraging. Just by the individuals that are on it, their expertise, their dynamism, what they have accomplished, and it's wonderful to hear that they are tapping into your experience because it's so true. They are going to be inheriting our kids.
Mm.
It's not long before my son's going to be no longer under pediatrics, and where do you go from there? So
I know it's
that's
such a scary leap. So,
it is. It is. And just knowing how you and Natalie and Elaine got this going, the three of you, the history behind it. And I still always mention the video that DRNC made about how you actually did what you did and how you got started. No wonder Disability Action Network tapped into you and said, hey, let's get Jenny Hobbs because what you did was so difficult and you made it so successful and you've sustained it for almost a decade. So that is no mean feat. So I don't want to get off the topic, but I know your time is precious, Jenny. We could talk to you forever, so I don't want to keep you much longer. But I want to thank you so much for everything you do, for relentlessly and passionately advocating both fearlessly and fiercely for our population of medically fragile and complex children and our families. And you've been doing this without pause for, as I said, almost a decade now. So thank you, Jenny. And before we say goodbye to Jenny and we say goodbye, I just want to remind everyone that please look in the description and also the top comment, and you will find a direct link to contact your state representatives where you can let them know why fully funding Medicaid and ending provider rate cuts is life-saving for our children. So it will take you a few seconds. It couldn't be easier to do, but the impact is immeasurable. So that link will be in the top comment and also in the description. And you'll also find a link to our organization website, to our website. And please subscribe to our channel. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button below and you'll want to subscribe to get notifications every time we have news, updates, and important information that impact our children and our families. And share our channel as well. You never know who it will reach and who may be in need of our help. So thank you. And remember, we stand for each child, each family, and one community. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Jenny.
thanks. Bye.
Bye.